Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've had a good week so far. I hope math hasn't been too challenging for you this week. I'm looking forward to our time together. I know some of you have sent me some questions, and I've made sure that those questions have been accounted for in the questions that we're going to walk through today. I want you to also remember that you can ask questions during this session. As we walk through problems, let me know if there are areas that you want us to focus on. Let me know if there are areas that are challenging, if there are explanations that are not very clear to you. Do let me know so that I can address them for you. I'm looking forward to this hour with you, and I always appreciate you spending the hour with us at Math is Tutors. And let's get started. I see we have a few students online already, and so we're going to wait for maybe a minute or so to allow some more students to trickle in, and let's have some fun. Remember, as we walk through these problems, ask questions. I'll be looking to the side to see if there are questions coming through, and any questions that come through, I will try to address them. And if it's something that we have to push to the next week, I'll let you know. Otherwise, let's have a good time. Mofe, good afternoon. Matofe, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. So I'm going to have the questions out here, and then I'm going to give you some time to walk through them if it's a question that you can answer. If there are questions here that you don't even know how to do it, just go ahead and say, I'm not sure, and then we'll just go ahead and walk through a learning session together. Okay, so let's get started. So I have 8th grade dot plots here, and we have the students in one social studies class were asked how many brothers and sisters they each have. The dot plot here shows the results, and so we're going to try start with something that is not too complicated. So we're trying to find out from this dot plot, if you're in 7th grade pre-AP or 8th grade academic or regular math, this is for you. How many students were there in the class? How many students had at least 3 siblings? What is the range in number of siblings? What is the range in number of siblings? How many students were in the class? How many students had at least 3 siblings? So we're looking at a dot plot here. So there are 20 students. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see how we get to that. So we have 20 students. 7 students had at least 3 siblings. Okay. At least 3 siblings. At least 3 siblings. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started with some of these questions. Thank you for your participation. And so how many students were there in the class? So what we're going to do is we're going to count the dots for each. This right here represents number of siblings. Number of siblings. So we're going to count each of these dots and then add them up together to find out how many students there were in the class. So we have 3 over here. We have 3 also. We have 3. Here we have 6, we have 4, and then we have 1. Range is 0 to 6, okay. How many students were in the class? We're going to add all of these numbers together. So we have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 6 plus 4 plus 1. When you add this up, you should get, this is 6 plus 3, we have 9 plus 6, 15, plus 4, 19, plus 1, we have 20 students. So this social studies class has 20 students. How many students had at least 3 siblings? This is another way of saying how many students had 3 or more siblings. So 3 or more. So we're going to focus on the the number of students that have 3 siblings, 4 siblings, 5 siblings, and 6 siblings. So we have 6 plus 4 plus 1. So this is going to be, right here is going to be 6 plus 4 plus 1, which is going to give you 11. So 7 had 3 siblings, 4 had 4 siblings, 5 had no siblings. There are no students with 5 siblings, and you have 1 student with 6 siblings. So that's what we're going to pay attention to here. So when you see at least, it just means or more. So 3 or more is what we're looking for. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then your range is going to be your highest number minus your lowest number, which is 6 minus 0. And that's going to give you 6. Good job, Anastasia. All right, are there any questions on this so we can go ahead to the next topic? Any questions? All right, let's try the next question. So this question, something like this came from a student. So I'm going to show you how I go about this. We're going to write this in vertex form. And so what we're looking for here is ax minus h squared plus, that should be k, not b. Just for consistency with what your teachers are using. This is k. So f of x is equal to a multiplied by x minus h squared plus k. And we're looking for hk, and that's going to be the value of our vertex. That is going to be the value of our vertex. So what is the vertex? The vertex is the maximum or the minimum point on the graph. So we can see right here, this is going to be our vertex, and the coordinates at that point, we have -1, -3. So that's going to be the coordinates of our vertex. So h is going to be the point -1, h is -1, k is -3. So how about we just go ahead and substitute these values into the original equation. So we're going to have f of x is equal to, a is going to be 1 here, and I can show you how to get the value of a. That's not too difficult. So a is going to be, I'm going to leave a right here. We have x, h, we're told is -1, x minus -1, and then we're going to square that, plus k is equal to -3. So now we have a, and then x, negative is positive, plus 1 squared minus 3, because you have a plus minus here, it's -3. So we want to find out what is the value of a. What we're going to do there is we're going to find out the value. Take note here that if x is equal to -1, remember that in this, when you have a point, if x is this value, then when you substitute the value of x equal to -1, your y should give you -3. So now that's what we're going to do is we're now going to replace f of x with -3. -3 is equal to x is -1, so we're going to go ahead and substitute -1 plus 1 squared equal to, -3. Let's see, -3. Okay, let's double check what we're doing. Okay, so a -1 multiplied plus 1 is 0, -3 equal to -3. So -3 is equal to -3. So here, what you're going to see in this case is that your a is going to be equal to, your a is equal to 1, and let's show how that is. So let's plug in. So we have f of x is equal to -3. Do you all understand what is going on so far? Because we have f of x is equal to -1, and then at that point y is equal to -3. So your point -1, -3 must satisfy this function right here. So what we're going to do now is we have f of x equal to, remember we said x plus 1 squared minus 3. That's going to be our function. What we're trying to do here is to find out the value of a that makes this equation true. So in this case, the easiest way to look at this is, for the most part, you're going to find out the value of a by substituting your values of x and y inside of this equation. So we have -1, -3 is our point right here. So f of -1 should be equal to -3. That's what we're saying here. And so therefore, all we're going to do here is substitute -1 into this equation and see what value of a is going to give us -3. So that's what we're going to do here, and then you're going to get a equal to 1. So that's really all you have to do in this case. Any questions here? Are there any questions? And then we can go to the next topic. If you have any questions, I can come back to another example like this. I think I put another one at the end, so just so that we can have an opportunity to go through it again. So now we have, this is Pythagoras Theorem, and we're trying to find out the value of a in this right triangle. This is grade 8, and this is, okay, Ini, thank you for feedback. All right, so now we're going to find the values of a, or the value of a that makes this a right triangle. So we have Pythagoras Theorem. Whenever you have a right triangle and you just think Pythagoras Theorem, so Pythagoras Theorem tells us that a squared plus b squared equal to c squared. Another way of saying this is to say that when you have a when you have a right triangle, Pythagoras Theorem tells you that the square of the longest side is the same as the sum of the squares of the other two sides. That's all there is to Pythagoras Theorem. And so how would you go about this with Pythagoras Theorem? You're just going to go ahead and substitute. We have a squared plus b squared is going to be the other side, which is going to be, I'm going to ignore the unit right now because it's not that important at this point. So we have 14 squared is equal to 28 squared. So now we're going to find out the value of a squared. So a squared is equal to 28 squared minus 14 squared. I know for most students, you're probably going to go ahead and find out 28 squared and 14 squared, and then you subtract. That is acceptable. I typically don't like to use that method. Here's the method I like to use. A squared minus b squared is the same as a plus b multiplied by a minus b. So that's the method I like to use. So it's 28 plus 14 multiplied by 28 minus 14. So this is going to give you, I think you're right, Ini. Well, let's go ahead and walk through it together. I'm going to leave my answer in radicals because the answer is not that important to me. I want to just make sure you understand how to go about it. So your answer is fine. I'm sure that's from the calculator, but we're going to do I'm going to leave it in radicals, and then I'll actually show you how to get it to decimal if you want. So 42 multiplied by 14. This is going to give you, let's do it together. I like to always do this. 2 multiplied by 4, we have 8. 4 multiplied by 4, we have 16. We're going to put a 0 here. 2 multiplied by 1, we have 2. 4 multiplied by 1, we have 4. We add, we have 8, 8, 5. So a squared is equal to 588. So to get a, you're going to take the square root of both of these sides. So a is equal to the square root of 588. This is actually the same as the square root of 196 multiplied by 3. And so a is equal to 14 multiplied by the square root of 3. Perfect, Ini. Yeah, you're right. So your a is now equal to 14 square root of 3 feet. And then we can use a calculator to show us that this is going to be the same as roughly 24.2 feet. So this is the right answer. All right, good work, good work. Any questions on this Pythagoras theorem? Any questions? All right, you're welcome, Ayo. Okay, now we're going to find the area of the trapezoid below. What I wanted to do here was to come up with a trapezoid that did not have the height given. So we want to first of all find the height, and then we're going to also use, after we find the height, we're going to find the area of the trapezoid. We're going to find the area of the trapezoid after we find the height. So I want you to remember, whenever you have, so we have a right triangle right here. In this case, we have only one side and an angle. So you're going to think of katoa. And then you can go ahead and do this here, make this 30 degrees so that you have all the angles completed. Now what's next? We need to find out the height, because why do we care about the height? The reason is the area of a trapezoid is going to be 1/2 the sum of the two parallel sides. So we have 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 multiplied by the height of the trapezoid. You can use anyone as the reference angle actually. You can use anyone. You can use 30, you can use 60. The only thing that would change is what ratio you use. So if you have 60 and you're trying to find the height, so 60 here, in this case, your height becomes adjacent and your 8 becomes your hypotenuse. So you're going to use adjacent hypotenuse. If you use 30, you have sine, which is, you have 30 here, h is opposite, and then you have hypotenuse. So you're going to use sine for that. So it depends on which one you prefer. I like to use sine because I know what sine 30 is. And remember that sine 30 and cosine 60 are exactly the same value. So you just have to remember those little nuggets, and then you should be fine. So what are we going to do first? I'm going to use sine. So we're going to use sine in this case, and sine is equal to the opposite side to the angle divided by the hypotenuse. And we're going to find out what sine 30 is. So sine 30 is opposite is going to be h, and then your hypotenuse is 8. So sine 30 is 1/2. Okay, then equal to h divided by 8. And now we can cross product here. Or if you can even simply, you don't even have to do cross product, they're all even numbers. So I can simply say 2 multiplied by 4 is 8, 1 multiplied by 4 is going to be h. So in this case, h is equal to 4. But if you want to use the cross product approach, that's fine too. 2 multiplied by h equal to 1 multiplied by 8, and you divide both sides by 2, h equal to 4. So that's all you have to do here. Now we have all that we need to find the area of the trapezoid. So now the area of the trapezoid is going to be 1/2. Base 1 is 13 plus base 2 is 21 multiplied by 4. So this is 1/2. 13 plus 21 is 34, and then you multiply that by 4. Now we can divide 4 and 2, and so 34 multiplied by 2 is 68 square feet. 68 square feet. So that's what we have for this trapezoid. Questions? Do you have any questions? Do I need to do some more work to help you understand it better? Just let me know. All right, Mofe. Thank you. Thank you for responding. All right, we're going to go over to the next question if there are no other questions here. All right, so this is a question that was sent to us as well, and I'm going to show you how to think about this type of problems. And so let's go ahead with this question. The marketing team for Capital Computer Company is working on a project to find the most profitable selling price for the company's new laptop computer. After much research, the team has decided that the function n equal to, so this is our function, n equal to negative 100p squared plus 300,000p represents the expected relationship between n, the net sales, so n represents net sales, and p represents the retail price of the laptop computer. The first thing we're going to do here is to solve the equation. The first question is solve the equation negative 100p squared plus 300,000p equal to 0 by factoring. So we're trying to factor this equation. So let's look for common, we need the greatest common factor. I already see zeros here and zeros here, and I see a p squared here, and I see a p here. So I'm just going to say 100p. But I like to do it this way. I'm going to say negative 100p is going to be our greatest common factor, and then we're going to divide each of the terms by negative 100p. So this is going to give us p minus, let's see, 100 here, so we cross out 2 zeros here, and then we have 3,000 equal to 0. So that's the first step. We have now factored these, we have factored the equation, but we want to solve the equation. Solving means we need to get a value for p. So let's go ahead and get a value for p. When you have two factors or two terms that multiply each other and you get a product of 0, it means that either one of them could be equal to 0. So that means negative 100p can be equal to 0. It also means p minus 3,000 could also be equal to 0. So let's go ahead and solve for p. So here, because we're getting 0, I can safely say here that p is 0. And also here, because we're going to add 3,000 to both sides. 3,000 to both sides. So p is equal to 3,000. So we now found the values of p. But now let's ask ourselves, what does p represent? P represents the retail price for you to get a net sale of 0. That's what P represents. Because your net sale N is equal to 0. Remember that this is N, and this equation here is to tell us the retail price when we have a net price of 0. So there's another question that follows this, and we're going to see why that understanding is important. We need to be able to interpret equations when we have them in any kind of form. So we're going to look at the next question and see why that information could be helpful to solve the next part of the question. So from the solution to the equation negative 100p squared plus 300,000p equal to 0 in part A, determine the retail price the company should sell the laptop to get the maximum net sales if they sell the laptop at this price. So how would you think about this? I want you to understand that when you have a graph like this, when I saw this question, one of the first things I thought about was, how does this graph look? Okay, the graph is going to look something like this, and so this is going to be 0 here and then 100. So it's going to look almost like that, something like that. So that's what your graph is going to look like. So it's asking you for the maximum. What is the retail price that the company should sell the laptop to get the maximum net sales? This here, I'm going to write net sales here. I'm going to get price here. So we're looking for the retail price that gives you a maximum net sales. Your maximum net sales is going to be right about here. Can you see that that represents the vertex or the maximum of this graph? So it represents the maximum of this graph, and so now you're going to find out the value of the price at this point. So let's go ahead and write our function f of x, or let's say f of p. F of p is equal to negative 100p squared plus 300,000p. Now, how do you get the value of the maximum or the minimum of the vertex? So what you're going to do is that your independent coordinate, so I'm going to use p here. So generally we have it as x, but I'm going to use p here. So we're going to first of all understand the values of a and b. So remember that if I have f of x equal to ax squared, I'm going to use p here so you don't get confused. So we have a, see why it's important to use p. So f of p is going to be ap squared plus bp plus c. Okay, so now we're going to find out the values of a and b. So in this case, a is equal to negative 100, and then b is equal to 300,000. Now when you want to find the value of the vertex, which is either the maximum or your minimum, you're going to focus on this equation. So your minimum is going to be, so your vertex, your x coordinate of your vertex. So we're going to look at this right here. The x coordinate is negative b divided by 2a. So now we're going to substitute these values in here. So we're going to have negative b is going to be negative of 300,000 divided by 2a, 2 multiplied by 100. So now we are going to go ahead and cross out the zeros at the end. Zeros at the end. And so we now have 3,000. Don't forget, I made a mistake here. I forgot to include the negative here. So there's a negative 100. So the negatives are going to cross out, and we now have 3,000 divided by 2, which is going to give us 1,500. So now what does 1,500 represent in this case? Because we're trying to find out the retail price. Now, when we go back to the question, let's go back to the question. The question says that P represents the retail price of the laptop computer. So now that we have that information, we can see that the retail price for you to get the maximum net sales, the retail price for you to get the maximum net sales is going to be this point right here. So that is $1,500, I guess, if it's a US company. So it's going to be $1,500 would be the retail price for you to get your maximum net sales based on this equation that we're given. Another question may ask you to use that information to find out the maximum net sales that you could get from this equation. And all we're going to do here is, so we're going to say the maximum net sales is going to be your y value. So it's going to be f of 1,500. And what you're going to do in that case is you're going to have negative 100, and then your p is 1,500 squared. Let me make sure I have the right equation. Okay, and then you're going to add 300,000 to that. So that's going to give you the value of your maximum sales, your maximum net sales. So let's see if we can go ahead and do this. I just want to show you how much further you can go with this question. So let's see, 1,500 squared. So does this make sense to you? I hope this makes sense to everyone. Do you get the thought process that I'm going through? I want to make sure you understand it so that you can actually apply it to other types of problems that you may have in your school. Let's double check something here. So negative b over 2a. So we have 3,000 here, 2, so 3,000. So does this make sense to you all? I want to make sure that it makes sense before we proceed. Then this is 1,500 because it is negative 100p squared plus 300,000 p. So let's go ahead and finish this up so that you can see different ways to apply this knowledge. So we have negative 1,500 squared. The way I'm going to look at that is I'm just going to pay attention to the 15 and ignore the zeros for now. So 15, so this is negative 100 multiplied by 15 squared is 225, and then there are 2 zeros here, so we multiply that by 2, and then we're going to have 4 zeros, and then we have plus 300,000. Actually, let's go ahead and simplify that. So 3 multiplied by 15, we have 45, and how many zeros do we have? We have 7 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's go ahead and simplify this. So we have negative 225. How many zeros do we have? We have 6 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's go ahead and okay. So this is what we have. We have negative 225 million plus 450 million. Okay, so that's perfect. So now when you compute this, you're actually going to end up, you're going to look at this right here. We have 6 zeros and we have 6 zeros. So I'll actually ignore that and just focus on negative 225 plus 450. And so we just subtract this. So 450 minus 225. So this is going to give you 5, 2, So this is going to give you $225 million. It's going to be their maximum net sales if they sell at that price. Now, based on what I showed you earlier, I want you to see that if this is correct, any other value that is not 1500 should give you a net sales lower than $225 million. So that's really what this is about. Are there any questions? Is this something? This is very Algebra 1 like. It's also sometimes you may see that in Algebra 2, but when it comes to word problems with the introduction, you will see most of it in Algebra 1. So if you're in Algebra 1 and you have not done this yet, most likely you will have to do it before the end of your school semester, or you may have to actually make sure you understand it before you get out of Algebra. I mean, during your summer break, make sure you can understand it. All right. Okay, so let's go to the next question. So we're looking for the surface area and the volume of this prism. This is going to be a parallelogram prism. Okay, so your surface area is always perimeter of the base multiplied by the height plus twice the area of the base. So you need to remember what it means to find the perimeter of your base, and also need to find out how to find the area of a parallelogram. So perimeter is simple. Perimeter is pretty simple because you're just adding all the sides together. You're adding all the sides together, and then the area of a parallelogram is base multiplied by height. So that's what we have. So let's go ahead and start working on this parallelogram. Let's find the perimeter of the base. So we have right here, we have here HGFE as a base, and at the bottom we have ABCD also as the base. So we're going to try to add all of them we're going to add all the sides together and then multiply it by, we're going to multiply it by the height. So let's go ahead and find, so this is 30 right here. What is this going to be here? It's going to be 13.1. Or you can use the top if you prefer that. You can use the one on the top. So you have 30 here, you have 13.1. So your perimeter of this base is going to be, perimeter is going to be 30 plus 13.1. And then you're going to multiply by your height, which is 6.1. For some reason, I used the example that requires a calculator. So you're going to find that, and then you're going to add the area of the base. The area of the base is base times height. So you have a parallelogram here. So your base is, so we're going to multiply 2 multiplied by, your base is 30, and then your height, and then your height here is going to be 12.2. So this is what you're going to do to get the perimeter of this prism. The surface area of the prism. You're going to do this to get the surface area of the prism. So now we have 30 multiplied by 30 plus 13.1. That's going to be 43.1. And then we're going to multiply it by 6.1. And then we're going to multiply 30 by 12.2. That should give you 366. And we'll multiply that by 2. So this is, when you add this up together, you're going to get the area of, you're going to get the surface area of this prism. So let me see if we can do that actually. All right, let me pull this up here. So we have 43.1 multiplied by 6.1. Okay, and then we're going to add 366 multiplied by 2. So the surface area of this shape, the surface area of this parallelogram is going to be 994.91. 994.91 square feet. So now the next thing we're going to do is find the volume. The volume is going to be area of the base multiplied by height. So I want you to pay close attention to this, because when you look at your base is a parallelogram. Your parallelogram has a height, but this height we're talking about here is the height of the prism, not the height of the base. So I'm going to write it this way: base multiplied by height multiplied by uppercase H. So you can see that the height here represents the height of the prism, and then you have your base and your height here representing your parallelogram. So your base is going to be your base multiplied by your height. In this case, is going to be 30 multiplied by, and then your height is 12.2, and then you multiply by the height of your prism. The height of the prism is the line that joins both bases together. So this is going to be multiplied by 6.1. And so we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. We have 30 multiplied by 12.2 multiplied by 6.1. So this is going to be 2232.6. So this is 2232.6 cubic feet. All right, Mofe, does this help? I know this was a question that you brought through, so I want to make sure that you understood everything that I did to kind of walk through the problem. Does this help you understand how to find the volume of a prism that has a parallelogram as its base, and then the surface area of a prism that has a parallelogram as its base? This method is actually universal. If you have any kind of prism, it would work regardless of the base. The most important thing is understanding how to find the perimeter of the base and also the area of the base. Once you understand how to do all of those, then you can apply this to any kind of prism. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for sending the question. It was really good. All right, so we have one more before we go to our puzzles. So in this case, we have a different type of quadratic equation or function. So we're trying to write it in this form: f of x equal to ax minus h squared plus k. And we know that our vertex has coordinates hk. All right, thank you for coming by, Mofe. Thanks for joining. I appreciate your time. All right, so now we're going to find out we need to find out the vertex. Where is our vertex? Our vertex is that point on the graph where the graph changes direction. So if it's increasing and then it starts to decrease, the point where it starts to make that shift is actually your vertex. So when we look at this graph, we can see that the y value is increasing, and then it gets to this point right here, and then it starts to decrease. So that's going to be our vertex, and in that case, our vertex is going to be -2 and 2. Okay, so now we have hk. This is going to be our h right here. This is going to be our k. And one of the things I want you to also know here is that because the parabola or the graph is facing down, when it's facing down, you can always assume that you have a negative value for a. A is going to be a negative number. So I'm going to just go ahead and say f of x equal to -a, and then x minus h squared plus k. All right, so let's go ahead and substitute the values of h and k into the equation, into the function here. So we have -a, and then you have x minus h is -2 squared plus k is 2. So this is going to be -a x plus 2 squared plus 2. And then if you apply the method I showed you earlier, you're going to find out that, let's find out, let's use a different point. I'm not going to use that point. Let's use the point 0 and -2. Let's use the point 0, -2. 0, -2. And the reason I chose that is just any point on the graph that is not the vertex. So we have 0, -2. So f of 0 should be equal to -2. You can also use this approach for the other question. I'm just looking for an easier way, a way to make it a lot easier for you to understand. So f of 0 is going to be -2. So we need to find out the value of a. So let's go ahead and substitute x equal to 0. So f of 0 means that we have -a, 0 plus 2 squared plus 2. Okay, so this is going to give me -2. Remember I said f of 0 is -2. So -2 is going to be -a, and then 0 plus 2 is going to be 2 squared plus 2. So we can go ahead and simplify and get to our value of a. So we can subtract 2 from both sides, and we have -4 is going to be equal to -a multiplied by 4. Can you see that? So now you can go ahead and divide by -4 on both sides, -4, and then you now have 1 is equal to a. So I like this method better than the other method, so you can use this method for both of them. Just pick any point on the graph and then it should apply. So a is equal to 1, so therefore your function is actually going to be f of x equal to -1. Then you have x plus 2 squared plus 2. So this is going to be the function that represents this graph. Does that make sense? I hope this makes sense. I hope this makes it clearer. I'm not sure if it was clear from the first example, but I hope this makes it a little bit clearer for you to understand. Okay, I'll wait for your response and then we'll go over to our puzzles for the day. We have 2 puzzles for the day, and I think that should give us enough for this session. Okay. I did already. Okay, so now we have this puzzle here, and let's go ahead and give an attempt at this one. So 2 plus 0 is equal to 8, 2 plus 1 equal to 27, 2 plus 2 is 64, 2 plus 3 is going to be what? Based on the sequence or the order that we have established. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to try to give this an attempt, and we'll see who comes up with the right answer. All right. How is everyone doing, by the way? As you're thinking through this, how's school? Are you guys almost done with school? Working on your finals right now? All right. Oh, Jaden is enjoying school. That's good. You're almost done with school. I think most schools should be over by, I think, the second week of next month. So you all should be thinking about summer, what you're going to do in the summer, because I know that most of the schools are not finishing the curriculum. So you may want to start thinking about what you're going to do in the summer to catch up. We're actually going to be offering different programs that would allow you to get caught up with what you missed out in the school year. Because I do know that a lot of schools are not actually finished. They are not completing the curriculum. So start thinking about that, and you feel free to let us know if you would like us to help you out with that. All right, let's go ahead, and I'll give you some hints here. Looks like no one has been able to figure this one out. All right, so what I'm doing here is 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 raised to the power 3 is equal to 8. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 raised to the power 3 is 27. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 raised to the power 3 is 64. That should give you all the hints you need for the answer. All right, I've made it simple. So this is going to be, let's say I'm going to give you a few more seconds to come up with an answer, and then we'll check who are the answers. So we're looking for the answer for this question here. Okay, good. Ayo, Esther, wonderful. Okay, so 5 to the power of 3 is equal to 125. All right, we got one more puzzle for today. Let's try this one. This one is actually not complicated. Jaden, good work, good work. Thank you to our Facebook contributors. We have some of our students on Facebook, some of our viewers on Facebook. So thank you for joining. All right, thank you, Ini. So let's go ahead and solve this one. This one is it's not as complicated as it looks. Simple hint here is just look at these numbers and find a way to relate them to the one in the middle. That's all. So 15 plus 11 is 26. Is there any relationship between 26 and 104? 13 plus 9 is 22. Is there a relationship between 22 and 88? Is that relationship the same as the relationship between 26 and 104? If you can establish that, oh, really close, Esther. Very close. I think your thought process is right, but I want you to think about the multiplier factor. Your multiplier is a bit low. So we got 15 plus 11 is 26. 26 multiplied by 4 is 104. So you can say that 4 is the multiplier. 4 is your multiplier. 13 plus 9 is 22. 22 multiplied by 4 is 88. Now we're going to apply the same multiplier to 14 and 10. So 14 plus 10 is 24. 14 plus 10 is 24. Now apply your multiplier and let's see what you come up with. Wonderful, Esther, wonderful. Okay, so we have 96. So we have 14 plus 10, that's going to be 24, and our multiplier is 4, and that's going to give you 96. So thank you everyone for your participation. Thank you for joining us today. Really, I always enjoy the time together with you all. Thank you for the questions. Those that have sent questions, thank you for sending us questions. I appreciate that. It allows me to actually figure out where you guys are, so I can think of the right ways to help you out as I think of the ways to solve the problems. So I really appreciate you joining me all these weeks you've been joining. Thanks for your support, and I hope this has been helpful to you. If it has been, please share the message with your friends, your family members, or even people that you just meet that you are struggling with math. They may be in your class or your school that are struggling with math. Let them know that there's an avenue here for them to just come in and ask questions and not feel frightened about people thinking about how smart you are or not. So we're here to provide a safe environment for you. So these are the different ways that you can reach us: our email, our website, and a phone number to reach us. I look forward to spending the next week with you. So enjoy your weekend and be blessed. Let us know if there are other ways that we can help you to get better in your math, because that's our goal. Our goal is to see students never become scared of math again. So just let us know how we can help you, and we'll be glad to do that. Thank you so much for your time, and remain blessed. Have a blessed weekend.